All right, perfect. Rita, we are live. Thanks for being here with me today on another installment of Catalyst Talks. Rita Hicks, you are a mom, a lawyer, an entrepreneur. You're a superstar. And the topic today is innovation. This whole series of talks, now you're like number 50 or 51, something like that,
Wow.
are all centered around the theme that was in our book, Catalyst, which is leadership and strategy in a changing world.
Mhm.
And so I want to know how you're doing and how you're adapting. So from there, let's take it. We've got all kinds of stuff to discuss. But first of all, how are you doing, the family? And then we're going to get into GotSpot and RescueSpot, which you've been innovating on here recently.
Awesome. Well, I'm so excited to be here. This has been a fantastic series so far. Happy to contribute to it.
Well, thanks for being on.
Absolutely. So we're doing well. We're healthy all together. Probably teaching fourth grade is the biggest challenge of my life. But my fourth grader has been a pretty good sport so far, thankfully. And otherwise, we're just taking it one day at a time.
Good. And you did mention this also the most time you've ever spent together as a family in 13 years, which is common for people, but more uncommon for you all.
That's right. Well, so my husband, he was in the Army for 22 years. I was with him 9 of those years, and we were a remote family. So even out, he's been contracting and traveling all over the place, but he's home now, and he's been home since December, which is a record for us.
Exactly. Well, fantastic. So speaking of records, you are setting records as an innovator. I keep seeing in social media and LinkedIn awards that you're winning, things that you're doing. So let's talk real quick. We've only got 10 minutes about GotSpot, how you got there, and then how you're pivoting right now for the common good here in this COVID time.
Sure. So my company GotSpot is basically an Airbnb style marketplace for businesses that have space and businesses that need to borrow space for hourly or daily use to be able to find one another. And I really had sort of 2 points of inspiration, one from each side of my marketplace. One is that I have been a bankruptcy and restructuring attorney for 15 years, and I've seen way too many
stuff.
It is, but I've seen way too many great local businesses not make it because of a rent problem. And there's just not a ton that can be done about that. Even landlords don't have a tremendous amount of flexibility in what they can charge by way of rent. But then on the flip side, I'm a military spouse, and a huge portion of that population are freelancers of some kind, because when you have to move every 2 years, you have to have a job you can take with you wherever you go. And the problem is that they're really good, and when they go to a new place, they get opportunities too big for home, but it never makes sense to have a commercial lease, so they have to find space to borrow. So for me, that looked like local businesses that need a creative way to make money off their space, and a large and growing gig economy that needs space, but only for specific things. I'm trying to create a place where they find each other.
And I'm just kind of toiling my way through your website while you're talking, just to give people an idea of the experience. So that's a good explanation of how you got to there. So tell us now, we're here about RescueSpot and what you're trying to do there.
It has always been important to me to look at communities' resiliency as sort of a whole problem, right? So it's everyday resiliency means businesses helping businesses, but community resiliency means businesses helping community. So when the pandemic hit, we started thinking around how can we help. We had always been planning to make GotSpot as a resource for hurricane response, finding space for hurricane response activities. But then what we figured out is every kind of emergency needs space for response activities. So very quickly stood up our RescueSpot page and started looking for specific space to meet the needs we were hearing about here in our community in Houston.
And is this live yet for people to be able to tune into? How can they get involved right now?
They can get involved. They can go to GotSpot's website and click into RescueSpot, and they can interact with us, tell us if they have space, tell us if they need space. It's not fully live yet, but we're getting there. And we are actually setting spaces right now.
Got it. So tell us about this mindset of innovation, of entrepreneurship. I like to say everybody can be an entrepreneur if they're involved in trying to solve problems. How did you get to be like this? How does this get to be in your DNA?
I think it's exactly what you said. I was never a person struck by the notion that I needed to be an entrepreneur. That just wasn't, I haven't always enjoyed practicing law, but I saw this very specific need that needed addressing. And it took a little while for me to convince myself I was the right person to solve that problem. But it was very important to me
How
to
did you
help.
convince yourself? Because when we talk about innovation, and I know it's only 10 minutes, but when we talk about innovation, I have this phrase that people will be what they can see. Who did you
Yeah.
see that helped you get to the point where you convinced yourself?
It's not really one person. It's really more, it just the swift kick in the pants I needed to go was Harvey. It was
Hurricane
me being in
Harvey.
a position, right? It was me being in a position to be fielding phone calls of people in my city and county desperate to find space. And then suddenly realizing I could have already been solving this problem if I hadn't been dragging my feet about trying to create the solution. And so it was really more like a conviction that I have to do this now. I should have been doing this already. And that's what got me going. And what keeps me going is being able to tap into a network of people who will brainstorm with me and help me and be a good sounding board for me. So I think it's a combination of a deep passion for wanting to solve a problem, and then thinking creatively about how the people around you can be a help to you, and then actually asking for that help is also a key part of it.
Asking for that help is huge. In fact, getting from idea to implementation is critical. You know, there are 1,000 great ideas that have died in people's imagination because they didn't take it to implementation. Mike Nemeth, who's been a guest on this interview series, said that, you know, going from idea to action as quickly as you can is the best way to do that. So I'm glad you got there. So again, short on time, but what do you recommend for someone out there that has their own idea, their own thing that they're trying to build, work, or are concerned about what is the future of work and maybe they need to reinvent themselves? What would you recommend?
For somebody who has an idea and they are just not sure about how or if they're the right person, I say just go. I say just go, and you can figure it out, bounce ideas off of people, but just keep going. And if you reach the point where you decide you can't go anymore, at least you've tried. But a lot of times when you just start going, you can get there.
Yes.
And I think the future of work is going to be a future that involves a lot of this cross-disciplinary collaboration. It's going to be people thinking more creatively about how to use each other as resources, how to use the built environment as resources. It's going to be a lot more nimble and fluid than it ever has been before, which creates a lot of opportunity. And also it has resulted in a lot of the traditional barriers to starting something new coming down.
Yeah. Are there people or resources or organizations that you think are especially helpful for those people that want to get that extra boost? I mean, that's a softball of a question because we're involved in Bunker Labs together. What else do you want to highlight while we have the time?
Well, Bunker Labs is definitely a key resource for any military affiliated entrepreneurs. It's been tremendously helpful for me. I would say find a peer group. Like, I'm very active in Female Founders Texas, just as a peer network to help, you know, find resources and brainstorm together and connections. But I think everything around you is a resource. Like, never discount the power of your own network, even if it has nothing to do with entrepreneurship. The people who are leaders in your community know everyone and everything that you need to know to be successful. But it starts with asking, right? And that's hard for me. I like to think of myself as self-sufficient, but I think the key to successful entrepreneurship is asking the right questions and asking the right things of the right connections, and then making it reciprocal, right? Being that resource for people too when it makes sense to do that.
What a perfect note to end on. I told you this time would go fast. Reda, thank you so much. As my friend Mitch Jacobson says, stay home, stay healthy, and stay in touch. And thank you for being here today.
Very, very happy to.
Thanks. So again, the whole purpose of these interviews is to get to the point very quickly in leadership and strategy in a changing world so that we can understand how people are adapting. And as I like to say, people will be what they can see, to be able to help people see that they can be a part of this change, whether it's reinventing their company or reinventing themselves or just trying to get through to the other side. If you have topics or suggestions, shoot me a note, an email, or LinkedIn. Folks like Reda Hicks are just a good example of that kind of innovation, and I'd love to make sure that you're a part of it as well. My name is Joseph Kopser. Thanks for tuning in. Talk to you later, and stay healthy, stay home, and stay in touch. Take care.